we're so honored to have with us, as part of the Foundation for Ethnic Understanding Civil Rights Conversation series, the Reverend Al Sharpton, with over 40 years of experience as a community leader, politician, minister, television host, commentator, tireless advocate. The Reverend Sharpton is one of America's most renowned civil rights leaders and public figures. Our discussion is on the subject, the role of the Jewish community today in combating racial injustice and racial inequality. So permit me to begin with the following question. Why do you think it took the senseless and brutal killing of George Floyd to mobilize and galvanize the Black community and men and women from all walks of life across America? After all, there have been countless others who have been brutalized by such racial injustice and racial bias. What was it about this particular killing that brought about the tremendous response that we're seeing in the United States and around the world?
First of all, let me say that the presence of you and the organization has been a consistent and persistent ally in this struggle around civil and human rights for a long time. So one of the reasons that I wanted to be part of this series is that much of America and the world woke up around George Floyd. You've been woke for 20 or 30 years doing this. I can't remember a situation that we've had in the country, and particularly New York. Eric Garner 6-7 years ago, Amadou Diallo, that you were not there. So it's my respect for you and the work of the organization that I want to be a part of the series. I think that George Floyd woke a lot of people up because in the middle of the pandemic, we saw, Rabbi Marc, that people were sheltered in. They had no distractions. There was no sports going on. You couldn't watch a football game. You couldn't watch a basketball game. And they zoomed in on the news because they were hoping every day they're going to tell me I can go out tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And they start seeing this tape over and over and over again with no distraction. Now, there was a tape with Eric Garner. There was a tape with others. But we had distractions. Unless you were somebody like you and I that zoom in on these things, you just say, oh, that's terrible, and keep going. You couldn't go anywhere with this. This was constant. And then it happened right after we saw Ahmaud Arbery killed in Brunswick, jogging killed in Brunswick, Georgia. Then Breonna Taylor killed in Louisville. Then the man with the knee on the neck. People just sort of exploded because they're locked down. They're upset anyway. And I think that caused it. I don't know if we didn't have the focused attention, we'd have had the reaction that we had. But people had to deal with it. They had to deal with it. And the constant showing of it, I think, just made it outrageous. I think also the fact that it was even more than Garner. 8 minutes. That's why when I did the eulogy, I had people stand up for 8 minutes, 46 seconds. Most people couldn't stay still for 2 minutes.
Wow.
Man, to keep that much pressure on someone's neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds, hearing a man saying, I can't breathe, calling for his mama. What is in you that would make you physically do that to somebody and do that to yourself, and to think that you're an officer of the law? I think it was too much for a lot of people to take silence.
Thank you. As you mentioned before, I've been so honored and privileged to partner with you, particularly in rebuilding the historic alliance between African Americans and Jews. And as you and I have discussed for years now, that during the civil rights struggle, there was no segment of American society that provided as much and as consistent support to Dr. King, to the African American community, as did the Jewish community. So my question to you is, as the great civil rights leader and national icon, and being so familiar with the history of Black-Jewish relations, what should the Jewish community be doing today in combating racial injustice and racial inequality?
I think the Jewish community needs to do what the Jewish community always did, and the Black community should do what it always did, and that is find alliances that we can dramatically and unapologetically fight together. Because let's not forget that the litany of cases that I just named over the last 40 days, from Ahmaud Arbery to Breonna Taylor to George Lawrence, then to the case of Brooks in Atlanta, they came after we saw synagogues being shot at all over this country, from Pennsylvania to California, and all the whole bigotry displayed that we've seen in the last year has been from synagogue being shot up and targeted to Blacks being shot. So there is the twin of racism, anti-Semitism that runs together. Now, we're not going to be naive. There's been tensions between the communities, but sometimes those tensions are like siblings in a household, because everybody, because you're close together, you have tension. I think that one of the things that we must do is understand that people that are anti-Black are usually also anti-Semitic. People that are anti-Semitic are usually anti-Black. We've got to fight bigotry together, as we always did, and that's what our forefathers fought. And I think that one of the things that I think that Marc Schneier is representative of, you build them on having honest, sometimes uncomfortable conversations that then lead to making relationships. How do you make a real relationship? You talk about the things you don't want to talk about, and then you come out stronger. So when you and I started fighting together, you would raise to me, I heard you said certain things, and did certain things, Reverend Al, I got a problem with that. And I said, I did do this, I didn't do that. And you said, you checked it, fine. I'd say to you, I don't like so-and-so. You said, fine, let's work on that. We went to Israel together. I was a guest of Sharon Peres. You went with me and took criticism for going. When we were in the meeting, Peres said, Reverend Al, I arranged for you to go talk about ending terrorism with Arafat. You said to me, I can't do that. I will not go in the room with Arafat. I understood that. We don't have to be twins to be brothers. And I think that if all of us can say, we agree on 75% of the same thing, let's fight on that. But I think that those that are the extremists in both sides that want purity tests are the ones that stop us from moving the nation forward. There are people out there that hate both of us. We've got to find common ground to fight that and make sure that they cannot eliminate either race, because it's all about all of us.
I enjoyed your metaphor of being within family. We can be family, doesn't mean that we don't have family disagreements. And as you and I have always said, we have a common faith, a common fate, and how our single destiny must strengthen our bonds of concern, compassion, caring for each other. And I want to also thank you, as I did back in December. It was the Reverend Al Sharpton that convened. It was truly a historic gathering at the House of Justice up in Harlem, where you brought together in New York City the leading, most prominent African-American ministers and other civil rights leaders to speak out unequivocally against anti-Semitism. And we're blessed that...
And let me say something about that gathering. I think they were the leading figures. I think it was historic. And we only invited one Jewish leader, and many called. But when someone said to me, why is Rabbi Marc Schneier the only Jewish leader here? I said, because he was been for years the only Jewish leader that would come. Now it is fashionable to come with us. You were there when it wasn't fashionable. And that's why you were there that day. I had to put that in.
Listen, now I know why so many people are so jealous that I have this relationship with Reverend Al Sharpton. Reverend Al, I just want to ask you one final question. And that is about the COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic, which has taken a disproportionate toll on Black and Brown communities. What steps are needed to protect the health of Black and Brown communities in the United States?
We need to deal with the need of healthcare equality. We have, they talk about food deserts. We have healthcare deserts. The hospitals are not near us. The ambulances don't come. The fact that many of us still have no insurance, which is why Obamacare was so important. We need to deal with the health inequity in our communities, which is why we're the most vulnerable, which is why we're the least detected. So when you have a pandemic, we are going to test higher because our health conditions, our immune system are the most vulnerable. And I think that we need to democratize healthcare. We need to democratize health services and insurance. And I think that if anything, COVID-19 exposed an existing inequality. It didn't create.
Anyway, I want to thank you. I know that you are in great demand, and this has been a wonderful opportunity to hear from you and to give guidance to the Jewish community that stands in solidarity with you, Reverend Al, with the National Action Network, with the Black community here in the United States. We are committed to fighting systemic racism. We are committed to fighting racial injustice and racial inequality. You are a true and genuine friend of the Jewish community. And may God give us both the strength, to work together for the betterment of our nation and the world at large.
Thank you. Shalom. I'm honored to have been with you.
Thank you. Thank you. May God bless you. All the best. Take care.